You don't deserve a family if you can't support mine, my wife said, while throwing my stuff out. I walked away quietly and let the bills do the talking. She called me heartless. But a month later, her brother's meltdown made everyone finally see who really paid for everything. Hey, Reddit! My wife thought kicking me out to protect her lazy brother would teach me a lesson. So I packed my bag, left without a word, and let reality teach them instead. But before it all fell apart, let me start from the beginning. My name's Ryan Hale, 33. I work in construction management, long hours, heavy boots, and quiet rides home. I've been married to Maya for 5 years. Her brother Dylan, 27, moved in for a couple weeks after he lost another job. That was 6 months ago. That day I got home late. Sun already gone. Clothes dusty from the site. My truck was parked out front like usual, but I noticed a deep scratch running down the side of the door, like someone dragged a key across it. My stomach sank. I ran my hand over it. Fresh. Inside, the living room looked like a trash can exploded. Empty cans, pizza boxes, and controller wires all over. Dylan was half lying, half sinking into the couch, eyes locked on a game, headset on, yelling at strangers online. Didn't even look up. I walked straight to the kitchen. The drawer where I kept a small cash envelope, about 200 for emergencies, felt lighter. I counted. 80 gone. I stared at the numbers on the bills for a second, trying to stay calm. Hey, I said from the kitchen doorway. You take my truck today? Dylan barely glanced back. Needed to grab food. You were gone. I nodded slowly. You hit something? There's a scratch down the side. He paused the game and smirked. That was already there, man. Chill out. Before I could answer, Maya appeared from the hallway. Hair wrapped in a towel, phone in hand. Ryan, stop. He's family. You're always looking for something to fight about. I turned to her. Your brother took my truck without asking, and now money's missing. That's not fighting. That's facts. She rolled her eyes. You act like you're the boss of everyone. He's trying to get back on his feet. I laughed, but not because it was funny. He's been trying for half a year. No job, no rent, no chores. I come home to a grown man glued to my couch, and I'm supposed to just fund the lifestyle? Dylan muted his game, leaned forward. Bro, you need to relax. You sound like a landlord. It's not that deep. Yeah, it is, I said. You're eating my food, driving my truck, and now my cash is disappearing. You either start contributing or you find somewhere else. He grinned, the kind of grin people give when they know someone will back them up. You gonna kick out your wife's brother? For real? Maya stepped closer. You're being controlling again. It's just money, Ryan. You always think people are using you. I looked at her. People don't have to think too hard when the evidence is sitting right here doing nothing. That hit. Her face stiffened. Dylan mumbled something under his breath like, damn, dude's losing it. I snapped my keys on the counter. I'm done asking nicely. You want to stay here? Help out. If not, leave. This isn't complicated. Maya's voice went sharp. You don't talk to my brother like that in my house. I stared at her for a second. Your house? That silence stretched too long. Dylan smirked again, leaned back into the couch like he just won something. Maya grabbed her phone. You're being aggressive. I'm calling the police. I honestly thought she was bluffing. She wasn't. I stood there, stunned, while she gave them our address. Dylan didn't say a word, just kept that stupid smirk. When the officers knocked, I opened the door for them myself. 2 of them, polite but cautious. One asked if there was a problem. I said, just a disagreement. I'm leaving. Maya stood behind me with crossed arms, acting calm, like she was the victim. The younger cop asked if everything was okay. She said I was worked up. I looked at both of them. Look, fellas, no issue here. I'm just realizing who I live with. One of them asked if I wanted to grab some things for the night. I nodded. Went to the bedroom, threw a few clothes and my laptop into a duffel. Didn't rush, didn't say a word to either of them. When I came back to the door, I set my house keys on the counter, right next to where Dylan's empty soda cans were stacked. You'll need these more than I do, I said. Maya frowned, still trying to look firm, but her voice cracked a little. You're overreacting. Maybe, I said, slinging the bag over my shoulder. But I'm also done paying for people who don't respect me. Dylan laughed quietly. Yeah, sure, man. See how long you last without us. I stopped in the doorway. Looked right at him. Without you? You mean the guy who doesn't even pay for toothpaste? He went quiet. The cops glanced at each other. I turned to them. No problem here, officers. I'm leaving peacefully. As I stepped outside, I looked back once. The place I'd worked so hard to build looked smaller now. Cluttered, loud, ungrateful. The officers took our names and logged the call. Nobody was hurt, Nobody wanted to press anything. I told them I was leaving for the night. That was the end of it. They left. I walked to my scratched-up truck, tossed the bag in the back seat, and sat for a second before starting the engine. The house lights were still on. Through the living room window, I could see Dylan picking the controller back up and Maya pacing with her phone. I said quietly, mostly to myself, "Let's see who keeps the lights on next month." Then I drove off into the dark street. No music, no second thoughts, just silence. And Nick's place wasn't fancy, but it was quiet. A small one-bedroom apartment above his auto shop smelled like oil and burnt coffee. He dragged out an old mattress from the corner, handed me a pillow, and said, "That's all I got, man. That's all I need," I told him. He nodded once and went back to his usual pace. Slow, steady, no questions. That's what I liked about Nick. He didn't talk unless something needed saying. We ate takeout on the hood of a car behind the shop later that night. Paper boxes, plastic forks, streetlight buzzing. Nick looked at me, chewing slow. "You gonna let them do that?" I shook my head. "Not really letting them. I'm just giving them what they wanted." He frowned. "Which is, me gone." He smirked. "Fair enough. After that night, I built a routine. I needed order. I woke up before sunrise, did a few push-ups, showered, grabbed coffee from the gas station across the street, and got to work early. I stopped scrolling my phone, stopped checking on Maya. My phone stayed on silent most of the day. Nick worked long hours too. We rarely talked about what happened unless he caught me thinking too hard. He'd just say, "Don't go back, man." Not after that. I'd nod. After the first week, I noticed how different silence felt when it wasn't loaded with tension. I slept better on that old mattress than I had in months. One Sunday morning, I sat down with my laptop and went through my bank accounts. Every bill, every subscription, every transfer. It was worse than I expected. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, streaming services, almost everything was under my name. Maya's paycheck barely covered gas and her little shopping habits. I stared at the list for a while, then started moving things around. Canceled what wasn't mine alone, changed passwords, set reminders. By the time I was done, the account looked clean, organized. Mine again. That week, I called a lawyer. A friend of Nick's recommended Daniel Cho. Quiet voice, clean office, the type who doesn't waste words. We sat across from each other while he flipped through my paperwork. I explained the situation, including the incident number from the night the cops came. He glanced at the short notes and looked up. No arrest, no charges, no case. That's a call for service entry, not a criminal record. I nodded. What about the house? He pushed his glasses up. Mortgage is in your name. That gives you control, but the lender doesn't care about your domestic situation. If you stop paying, they'll report you late and eventually foreclose. So what can I shut off? Everything that isn't secured debt, he said. Close joint cards, remove authorized users, cancel subscriptions you pay for, move your direct deposit, and put utilities in whoever's actually using them. Keep the mortgage current while we separate finances. If you want out of the house, we can list it or petition for exclusive use, depending on how cooperative she is. So legally, I can stop paying for everything except the mortgage. You can stop paying for anything that isn't in your name or isn't secured. Keep the mortgage current until we sell or you get a court order. That's the clean way. He typed, then slid a one-page checklist across the desk. Do it quietly. No speeches. Just stop funding what isn't your responsibility. Back at Nick's, I spent evenings fixing up things around his place to keep busy. His door hinges squeaked, sink leaked, and the garage lights flickered. I repaired them one by one, more for the focus than the money. Nick watched me one night while I patched a drywall hole in the hallway. "Man, you work like you're trying to earn your oxygen." "Better than sitting around feeling sorry for myself," I said. He grinned. "You ever think of doing this for real? Small jobs, rentals, handyman stuff?" I thought about it. I already had the tools and experience. Maybe. Beats fighting with people who think groceries grow on trees. Next day, I made a simple post online offering repair services. Within a week, I got 3 calls. Leaky faucet, fence repair, busted cabinet hinge. Nothing big, but it kept my mind sharp. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed every few days with notifications I didn't open. I recognized Maya's posts when mutual friends sent screenshots. Pictures of her and Dylan sitting on the couch, some cheesy caption like "peace at home" or "positive energy only." I scrolled past them without stopping. Nick saw one once while I was showing him a text from a client. He laughed. "She's posting like it's a movie, and she's the hero." I shrugged. She can have the role. I'm rewriting mine. By the second week, the apartment started feeling more like home than the house I paid for. I cooked basic meals, kept my stuff organized, and stopped worrying about what they were doing. Every night before bed, I checked off my to-do list. Workouts, client calls, savings goals. I was sitting outside one evening after finishing a job, grease on my hands, when Nick joined me with a soda in each hand. He handed me one and sat down beside the car. "You ever think about getting back at them?" he asked casually. I cracked the can open. "No revenge," I said. "Just balance." He raised an eyebrow. "Balance?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm just removing myself from the system that feeds them. They'll mistake that for revenge, but that's not my problem." He nodded slowly. "That's probably the most peaceful way to mess somebody up." I smiled, staring out at the dark street. Exactly. We sat there for a while, quiet except for the sound of cars passing in the distance. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't angry. I was just focused. Everything that came next was going to be simple math. Cut off the waste, rebuild what's mine, and let time do the rest. I didn't need to yell, post, or explain. Silence was doing all the talking I needed. For 2 weeks after I left, my first full paycheck hit the new account. I watched the deposit come in, double-checked everything, and felt a calm I hadn't felt in years. No shared access, no automatic transfers feeding someone else's comfort. Just mine. That night, I sat at Nick's kitchen table with my laptop and went through every bill tied to the old house. One by one, I switched or canceled them. The grocery card, gone. Streaming accounts, canceled. Auto payments, turned off. Even the utility accounts were set to require manual payment. I didn't touch anything illegal or messy, just stopped funding what wasn't my responsibility anymore. When I was done, I leaned back and looked at the list. Every single expense that kept that house running had my name on it. For years, I'd called it teamwork. Now it looked more like charity. A week later, my phone buzzed while I was patching drywall at a rental property. It was a message from Maya. "Why did the card decline at the store?" I stared at it for a few seconds and put the phone back in my pocket. Didn't reply. By the end of that same week, the messages doubled. "Internet's not working." They said the water bill went unpaid. "Are you really going to do this to me?" I didn't answer any of them. She'd called the cops on me in my own house, told me to leave, and now she wanted customer service. Nick noticed I was quieter that day while we worked on a garage door. "Everything good?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just waiting for the lights to go out." He chuckled. "That'll be a fun show." It didn't take long. Word got back through a neighbor I still talk to that the house looked dark most nights now. Maya and Dylan were arguing a lot. Apparently, Dylan's big complaint was that a real man wouldn't abandon family. That part made me laugh. The guy living off another man's paycheck was talking about what real men do. While they spiraled, I kept working. My side jobs started picking up fast. People appreciated someone who showed up on time, did clean work, and didn't overcharge. Word of mouth did the rest. I fixed fences, replaced outlets, built decks. Half the time, clients tried to tip me extra, and I refused. I wasn't chasing money anymore. I was chasing peace. I didn't post anything online. No pictures, no updates, no look at me moments. The fewer people who knew what I was doing, the easier it was to move in silence. Once, a mutual friend texted me a screenshot of Maya's social post, another stage selfie with Dylan on the couch, captioned, "Good vibes only." I scrolled past it. You could tell the smile was forced. The walls behind them were bare, the same ones I had painted last year. I almost felt bad for the paint. At the same time, my phone started lighting up with new client messages. Someone recommended me for a maintenance contract with a local property manager. Small jobs, steady pay. It was the kind of gig that let me stay busy without thinking about the mess I'd left behind. One night after a long day, I grabbed coffee and took a slow drive through my old neighborhood. Not to snoop, just curiosity. I wanted to see how peace at home was holding up. The street was quiet, most porch lights off. When I pulled up near my old driveway, I parked far enough not to be noticed. The blinds were open just enough to see inside. The TV screen was black, the room dark. Dylan was pacing around, waving his arms while Maya sat at the table. I couldn't hear much, but when the front door flew open, I caught enough. "Don't start with me about the bills," she shouted from inside. "You're the one who made him leave," Dylan yelled back. "Now we're screwed because you couldn't keep your mouth shut." I watched him stomp onto the porch, slam the door, and sit on the step. His phone screen lit up his face, probably trying to get a signal that wasn't there. I sipped my coffee and leaned back in the seat. This wasn't joy or revenge. It was confirmation. They were finally seeing how much invisible work I had been doing just to keep that roof from collapsing. I sat there for maybe another minute, long enough to see Maya come to the door, say something, and slam it again. Dylan yelled something after her, but I didn't care what. As I pulled away, I caught myself smiling a little. Not a proud smile, more like one you get when a math problem finally adds up. Reality's doing my talking for me, I said out loud. The next morning, I woke up early again, same as always. Made coffee, checked my schedule, and went back to work. No texts, no calls, no stress. The silence didn't bother me anymore. It just reminded me that, for the first time in years, everything happening or falling apart wasn't my mess to fix. 3 weeks after cutting everything off, the messages started coming in again. First angry, then softer, then desperate. You can't just leave us like this. I know I said things, but you're being cold. Can we please talk? I can't keep paying everything. Every time my phone buzzed, I skimmed the first line and put it face down. When I did answer, I kept it short. You said you didn't need me. That reply seemed to hit her harder than anything else. She stopped texting for 2 days. Then they started again. Longer, more scattered. He's trying to get a job, I swear. We're doing our best. Please just help with the mortgage until he finds something. No apology, just excuses. Meanwhile, Dylan was spiraling. I didn't have to see it to know. People talk. A neighbor I'd stayed friendly with, Mr. Harris, sent me a text one afternoon. Your wife's brother's losing it. Yelling outside again. Broke something last night. I thanked him, told him not to get involved. Later that week, another text came through. He's been pawning stuff. Saw him at the shop downtown. Pretty sure it was her jewelry. I read that one twice. I shouldn't have been surprised, but it still landed weird. The same woman who called me controlling was now living with a thief under her own roof. Back at Nick's, I was still keeping my days packed. The side jobs were steady now. I'd wake up early, knock out a few repairs, grab a sandwich, then spend the afternoon doing paperwork or calls. Nights were quiet. One evening, Nick came home and threw his jacket on a chair that wobbled so bad it almost fell over. He cursed, and I laughed. Man, how long's that been like that? Months, he said. You're the fix-it guy. Do your thing. I grabbed a screwdriver and sat on the floor. It was a simple fix. Tighten a few screws, glue a cracked joint, let it sit overnight. He stood behind me eating chips. You really don't stop working, huh? He said. Can't afford to stop, I said, checking the alignment. If I sit too long, I start thinking. He nodded. They still texting? Every day. Same song, different lyrics. Gonna answer? I shook my head. Not yet. Let's see how long the lesson lasts. He laughed. That's cold, man. Not cold. Just balanced. The next morning, I had a call from Daniel Cho, my lawyer. He sounded as calm as always. Quick update, he said. I checked with the department. There were no charges and no case opened. Background checks won't show anything. There's nothing to remove. If you want something for your files, I can request a letter confirming no arrest and no further action. I thought about it. Don't bother, I said. I've got the incident number if I ever need it. That afternoon, between jobs, I scrolled through Maya's latest messages. The tone had changed again. She wasn't angry anymore. Just tired. I can't do this without you. He's getting worse. I think he took my necklace. I just need help. Please. I didn't reply. I took a screenshot instead and saved it in a folder I kept for documentation. Proof. Not for court. For memory. The chair I'd fixed the night before had dried perfectly. I tightened the last screw and sat down on it. It didn't move an inch. That simple repair made me feel more grounded than anything else that week. Sometimes rebuilding something broken is quiet work. No yelling, no lectures, just time, tools, and patience. Over the next few days, more updates rolled in from people I hadn't even asked. A friend who lived a few streets over told me Dylan was seen screaming in the driveway at midnight. Another said Maya had come into her store looking worn down and distracted. Nick looked up from his phone one night. Dude, your old house sounds like a soap opera. Yeah, I said, closing my laptop. Only difference is, nobody's watching this one for fun. He laughed. You sure you don't miss the chaos? Not for a second. By the end of the week, the messages from Maya turned bitter again. Short, sharp sentences. You think you're proving something? You're just cruel. You'll regret this when I move on. I didn't respond. Didn't even roll my eyes. I just screenshotted them all and went back to work. The last message that night came around midnight. I don't even know who you are anymore. I looked at it for a while, then locked my phone. She didn't realize it yet, but I hadn't changed. I was the same person I'd always been, just finally done being taken for granted. The next morning, I packed my tools, loaded the truck, and headed to a new job across town. The sky was clear, the air cold. Perfect working weather. As I pulled onto the highway, my phone buzzed again. Another message. Another plea. I ignored it, turned the volume all the way down, and kept driving. The road ahead was open, quiet, and mine. It had been almost 2 months since I walked out of that house when Maya finally convinced me to meet. She'd been texting for days. Long messages, paragraphs, apologies mixed with guilt trips. I ignored most of them until one line caught my attention. Please, just one conversation. I need to see you. I agreed, but only on my terms. A public place, no drama. We picked a small diner off the highway. Plain booths, quiet crowd, nothing fancy. When I walked in, she was already there. Sitting in a corner booth, hands wrapped around a coffee cup she hadn't touched. She looked thinner, makeup covering tired eyes, hair tied up carelessly. Not the confident version of her that used to lecture me about being too harsh. I sat across from her. So, I said, you wanted to talk. She nodded, eyes darting around like she was afraid of being overheard. This can't go on, she said finally. Dylan's trying, but he can't find anything stable. We're behind on everything. I raised an eyebrow. Trying what? Breathing. Her face tightened. That's not fair. It's accurate, I said. You picked your side. Now live with it. For a second, she didn't speak, just stared at her cup. When she finally looked up, her voice was quieter. I overreacted, okay? That night, I was angry. I didn't mean for it to get this bad. I leaned back. You called the cops on your husband because I asked your brother to grow up. That's not angry. That's stupid. She winced but kept going. You made him feel unwelcome. He was unwelcome. He's a parasite. You don't invite someone to live off you and then blame the person paying the bills for being upset about it. Her lip trembled slightly, but I didn't feel sympathy. I'd spent too long trying to reason with someone who only heard what she wanted. She tried changing the subject. You can't just cut us off. We're drowning, Ryan. Correction, I said. You're drowning. I learned to swim. She frowned, frustration bubbling through her calm act. You think this makes you look strong? Leaving me to deal with everything? No, I said. It makes me look done. The waitress came by, dropped off a refill for her, and poured me a coffee. Neither of us spoke until she walked away. Maya stirred her cup with a spoon, just to have something to do with her hands. Is this really how it ends? She asked softly. I looked her straight in the eye. No, it ends with me cleaning up legally. I'm listing the house and separating everything on paper. I'll keep the mortgage current until it closes. Utilities and extras are on whoever's living there. Her head snapped up. You can't! Sure I can, I said. I paid for it. Her voice rose slightly, earning a glance from another table. That's our home, Ryan. It was our home, I said, keeping my tone even. Then you let your brother turn it into a crash pad and called the cops on me when I objected. Homes don't survive that kind of stupidity. She shook her head, biting her lip. You're just doing this to hurt me. If I wanted to hurt you, I said, I'd come back. This is mercy. Her eyes watered, but I didn't buy it. Guilt and regret always sound like tears when people run out of excuses. The check came. The waitress slid it between us. I took it and looked at the total. I'll get mine, I said, dropping enough cash for my coffee and setting it on the table. Maya fumbled with her purse, trying to look composed. She slid her card into the folder, and a few minutes later, the waitress came back. Sorry, she said quietly. It didn't go through. Maya's face froze. The waitress left politely, pretending not to notice the tension. I sat there watching her thumb through her wallet like she might magically find money. Need a loan? I asked flatly. She glared at me. Don't be cruel. I stood up. You wanted independence. Congratulations. You got it. I left the cash for my coffee and walked out. The bell over the door jingled behind me. Outside, the air felt lighter. I walked across the parking lot, pulled out my phone, and typed one last message. Decide who your family really is. This was your free trial. I hit send and slipped the phone back into my pocket. Through the diner window, I could still see her sitting there, head down, card in hand, pretending not to notice everyone else moving on with their lives. I didn't feel proud or angry, just done. For the first time in years, I was finally walking away from someone who never thought I would. The house finally cracked the way I knew it would. It started one night when the power got cut. The unpaid balance had piled up for weeks, and the company finally flipped the switch. No lights, no Wi-Fi, no hot water. Dylan lost it. He threw a plate at the wall so hard it shattered against the corner, then started shouting about how the system was against him. Maya told him to calm down, but he only got louder. This is your fault, he yelled. You should have begged him to come back. She told him to pack his things and leave. He laughed in her face. You're nothing without him, and I'm the only one who stayed. When she tried to push him toward the door, he shoved her back, knocked a lamp over, and stormed outside. 10 minutes later, he came back in through the kitchen, still yelling, still blaming everyone but himself. He kicked a chair, threw an empty bottle across the room, and punched a hole in the drywall. That's when the neighbors had enough. Someone called the cops. Officers showed up again. They didn't need much explanation this time. They could hear Dylan from the street. One of them walked inside, told him to calm down, and when he started shouting about being framed, they cuffed him right there. Maya was sitting on the steps by then, crying and shaking. When the door slammed behind him and the patrol car pulled away, the whole house went silent. Reality hit her the way it was supposed to. The next morning, I met with Daniel. He had the separation of finances packet ready and a listing agreement for the house. "This starts the process," he said. "Photos, showings, offer, escrow. Figure 30 to 60 days once we're under contract." I signed what needed signing. Clean, simple. No announcements. "This will close out your shared accounts," he said. "After today, she has no access to anything under your name." "Perfect," I said, signing the last sheet. He collected the papers, straightened them into a neat pile. "You handled this cleaner than most people do." "I didn't need revenge," I said. "Just order." He nodded, understanding exactly what I meant. When I walked out, the air felt sharp and clean. For the first time since I'd left that house, everything that tied me to their day-to-day was gone on paper, not just in my head. That night, while I was fixing a kitchen cabinet in Nick's place, a memory hit me out of nowhere. It was from our first year of marriage. Maya and I had just moved into a small apartment. We didn't have furniture yet, so we ate pizza on the floor surrounded by boxes. She laughed about how this will be our story someday. I remembered how simple that night felt. No money arguments, no freeloading relatives, no fake peace posts online. Just two people thinking they were on the same team. The memory didn't sting as much as I expected. It just felt like something that belonged to another version of me. When my phone rang later that evening, I knew who it was before looking. I let it buzz twice before answering. Her voice was low and cracked. "He's gone," she said. "They arrested him." I stayed quiet. She sniffed. "The house is a mess. Everything's gone. I don't even know where to start." I leaned against the counter, keeping my tone steady. "That's how it felt when you sided with him. Now you understand." She didn't respond. Just quiet breathing through the line. Then she whispered, "I'm sorry." I didn't answer that either. I waited a few seconds, then hung up. I put the phone face down on the counter and looked around the small apartment. The walls were bare, but the air was calm. Everything here worked. The lights, the sink, the silence. I opened my planner, checked tomorrow's jobs, wrote down addresses, and set my alarm. 6 weeks later, escrow closed. The wire hit, the keys changed hands, and the house was someone else's problem. 3 months passed. Life settled into something simple and quiet. My new apartment was small. 1 bedroom, clean walls, everything in its place. The desk faced the window. The coffee machine actually worked, and there was no noise except for the sound of traffic a few streets away. The business had grown steady. Calls came in almost every day. People trusted me. I had repeat clients now. Landlords, property owners, small offices needing repairs. Nothing fancy, just consistent. The kind of work that kept your hands busy and your head clear. My body changed too. I was up early, lifting again, eating right. No late-night arguments, no stress eating, no walking on eggshells. I slept through the night for the first time in years. My mind was calm, my days predictable, peaceful. One Tuesday, I was finishing a fence repair at a rental property when I noticed someone standing near my truck. Hoodie pulled up, hands in pockets. I knew the stance right away. Dylan. He waited until I walked over, eyes darting around like he didn't want to be seen. "Hey man," he said quietly. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. I just kept walking to the truck, tossed my gloves in the back, and leaned against the door. "You've got about 30 seconds. He shifted his weight. "I just need a place to crash? Just for a bit. Things got bad, and I don't really have anyone else." I looked at him. Same messy hair, same lazy tone, but the confidence was gone. "Try a job application," I said. He frowned. "Come on, man. You know how hard it is out here." "Yeah," I said. "That's why I work." I unlocked the door and got in. He muttered something under his breath. Something about me being heartless. I didn't care enough to respond. I drove off without looking back. That night, I sat on the balcony with coffee, watching the city lights. I thought about how easy it was for him to ask for help, how quick people like him are to lean on anyone who still stands. Then I stopped thinking about him altogether. A week later, Maya texted me. Just one line. "Can we meet?" No drama, I promise. I ignored it for a few hours, then said yes. We met at a small park near downtown. Late afternoon, cool breeze, barely anyone around. She was sitting on a bench when I got there. She looked different this time. No makeup, plain clothes, hair pulled back, no fake smile. She looked real. When I sat down, she gave a small nod. Thanks for coming. I shrugged. You asked. She stared at her hands. I'm working 2 shifts now, trying to pay off the debts. The house is gone. Everything's different. Good, I said. It should be. She nodded slowly. I know, I messed up. I should have listened before things got that bad. I just thought I was helping him. You were helping him stay useless, I said. There's a difference. She didn't argue, just kept looking at the ground. I'm sorry, Ryan. I nodded once. Good. Keep going. For a while, neither of us said anything. Birds, wind, a couple walking past. It was quiet but not awkward. Then she looked up. Do you think we could ever try again? Not now, but someday? I thought about it before answering. Maybe, I said, when you've built something by yourself. When you can stand on your own 2 feet. Then maybe? She nodded. That's fair. There wasn't much left to say after that. She stood, thanked me quietly, and walked toward the parking lot. No tears, no begging, just quiet acceptance. I watched her leave and felt something shift. Not sadness, not anger, just closure. The kind that comes when the last page finally turns and you don't feel the need to read back. The next morning, I woke up early as usual. The sky was clear, sunlight filling the apartment. I brewed coffee and stepped out onto the balcony. The street below was already alive, people heading to work, buses moving, horns in the distance. I rested my arms on the railing, the warm mug in my hands, my old watch ticking quietly on my wrist. Everything felt steady, simple, mine. I didn't ruin them. I just stopped saving them. That was enough. 6 months later, life had found its rhythm again. Nothing dramatic, nothing flashy, just steady progress. I was booked out for weeks, fixing fences, repairing doors, and helping small landlords maintain their places. Word of mouth had done what advertising couldn't. I showed up on time, did honest work, and left things better than I found them. People liked that. The new apartment stayed spotless. No shouting, no slammed doors, no one leaving dishes to rot in the sink. I had a rule now. Everything in its place. Everything earned. My tools lined up neatly on a shelf by the wall. The smell of coffee and sawdust had become my kind of peace. Every few weeks, Maya sent short messages. Updates, not conversations. Started saving again. Finally cleared another bill. Working overtime this week. She wasn't asking for help anymore, just letting me know she was still trying. I never said much back, just a simple good or keep at it. It was enough. We'd said all the important things already. The rest was up to her. As for Dylan, I heard from a mutual friend that he'd left town. Apparently, he bounced between a few odd jobs and eventually ended up crashing with someone else who didn't know better yet. I didn't waste time thinking about it. Some people never learn unless the world knocks them flat. Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. Either way, it wasn't my concern. One Friday evening, I stopped by Nick's shop. He was under a car, oil on his hands. Same old music playing in the background. When he saw me, he grinned. Look at you, man. You actually look alive now. I laughed. Yeah, I got tired of bleeding for people who didn't care. He tossed me a soda and leaned on the counter. You gonna date again, or stay married to your toolbox? Toolbox never lied to me, I said, and we both laughed. The truth was, I hadn't even thought about dating. I liked my space. I liked coming home to quiet. Maybe that would change one day, but I wasn't in a rush. You see life differently after watching how fast trust can rot when it's one-sided. I'd rather be alone than go through that kind of mess again. Later that night, I got home, showered, and sat out on the balcony. The city lights stretched out below, a few dogs barking somewhere far away. The air was cool, calm. I checked my phone one last time. A new message from Maya. Thanks for everything, even the hard lessons. I didn't reply right away. I just set the phone aside, leaned back, and watched the skyline. Some people call it moving on. I think of it as remembering who you are before someone else convinced you to forget. My coffee was still warm, my tools were lined up for tomorrow, and my world was finally quiet again. That's how I knew I'd won. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.